protruded out of his unzipped jacket. The employees cleared the store of customers. Some workers ran away while some stayed to watch the man, unable to move for fear of missing a piece of the action. The employees acted as many Americans would, captivated by the odd and the violent, and unable or unwilling to intervene. Sirens blared as 2 police cars pulled up to the food save, their red and blue flashing lights blinding through the glass as dusk had finally arrived. 4 officers entered the store and approached the gorged man from both sides of the snack aisle. Officer Ramirez signaled to one of the officers to check on the employee lying in the pool of blood. The 2 remaining officers pulled tasers while Ramirez approached with one hand outstretched and the other on the grip of his gun. Officer Ramirez was a 5-year veteran of the force. He had the cleanest arrest record of anyone with his experience, and he was a damn good cop according to his supervisor. He wasn't one to gun for the cushy jobs patrolling the yuppie neighborhoods around San Francisco. Luis Ramirez grew up off Cesar Chavez Boulevard with more drugs per capita than an average Thai whorehouse. He'd seen more than his fair share of homeless people in the city and felt for them. A lot of them were military veterans with psychological problems. Officer Ramirez wanted to help out where he was needed most, and right now that was in the Food Save grocery store. Officer Burroughs returned from checking on the downed employee, shaking his head solemnly. Ramirez nodded and took a few steps closer to the man, who stood facing the racks, focused on the food in front of him. "Sir," Luis said, "my name is Officer Ramirez. Do you know where you are?" A series of growls answered the policeman. Off-white foam dripped from Neil Merriweather's mouth. Officer Ramirez signaled the 2 policemen behind the vagrant, each of whom grabbed an arm and pulled them behind the man's back. Before the officers could slap cuffs on him, Neil thrust his head to the rear, crunching Officer Clement's nose. Neil twisted his weight and rolled free. Officer Ramirez pulled his taser from the sheath on his belt. Neil crouched to the floor on all 4s and then sprung at Officer Ramirez like a starved lion. Officer Ramirez fired the taser, connecting with the man's chest, but Neil was already on top of him, tearing a patch of flesh from his neck. The remaining officers fired their tasers at Neil. Finally, the combined shock was enough to incapacitate him. The policeman with the broken nose rolled Neil off of Officer Ramirez and put pressure on his neck wound. Blood was flowing freely from the puncture marks. At the academy, they'd learned about all manner of wounds and how to administer first aid. With a neck wound, there wasn't any kind of tourniquet he could fashion, so his options were limited. He continued to press down on the wound. It was the best he could do under the circumstances. Officer Johnson keyed up his radio and said, "This is Unit 356. I have an 1198 at the Food Save on Merchant Street. Officer down. Say again, officer down." Officer Johnson was a tall African man. People would try to call him African American, and he would correct them. He was born in Ghana and lived there until he was 8 years old. When his family immigrated to America, his father had them change their last name from Abowagye. While Johnson's father had wanted to fit in a new country, he'd wanted to stand out since he was a child. The beauty of America to him was the ability to be his own person and embrace his heritage. That's why he was on the streets every day, defending that freedom. 10-4, Unit 356, what's their condition? The dispatcher asked. "Code 3, emergency," Officer Johnson said, adding with his slight accent, "multiple puncture wounds, unable to stop blood loss." Officer Johnson pointed to Officer Clement and ordered, "I need a first aid kit now." Officer Clement hesitated for a moment and then took off in a sprint to his squad car. Neil began to stir, rubbing his eyes and feeling around his chest for the taser probes. Before he could pull one loose, Officer Burroughs pulled the trigger on his taser, sending a pulse through Neil's body. He convulsed on the floor, quivering, and let more foam fall from his lips. After 10 seconds of this, he passed out once more. Officer Burroughs removed his offhand from the taser and tenderly held his broken nose. The rookie was known around the department as the pretty boy who took perhaps too much pride in his personal appearance.